Your Ford is running at maybe 60% of its actual potential right now. Not because something is broken, but because Ford and your dealership designed it that way on purpose. After spending over 15 years watching dealerships bleed, Ford owners dry on repairs that could have been prevented with tricks that cost less than a tank of gas, I am done staying quiet. Today I am exposing 19 hidden Ford tricks that dealerships are praying you never discover. Trick number 7 saved one owner over $4,700 in a single afternoon. And trick number 1 is the nuclear option that can add 50 to 80 horsepower to your Ford overnight without touching a single mechanical part. Let's get into it. Trick number 19, the throttle body reset. Something you can do right now in your driveway that dealers charge $150 for. No tools, no parts, just 30 seconds. Your Ford uses electronic throttle control, and over time, the computer develops lazy habits based on how you drive. It softens throttle response, shifts early, and puts itself to sleep. Here is how to wipe that clean. Turn the key to the on position without starting the engine. Press the gas pedal to the floor and hold it for 10 seconds. Turn the key off, release the pedal, wait 10 seconds, then start the truck. Forces the ECU to relearn from scratch. Works on EcoBoost, Coyotes, and older 5.4 Tritons. Right after the reset, go for a spirited drive. Teach the computer you are a driver, not a passenger. Trick number 18, the airbox resonator delete. Your Ford's intake system was designed to be quiet, not powerful. Ford engineers are terrified of noise, vibration, and harshness. So they pack the intake full of plastic baffles and resonators that do nothing but strangle airflow. Inside your fender on F-150s and Mustangs, there is a massive plastic resonator most people call the milk jug. It serves zero performance purpose. It is strictly a silencer that creates turbulence and slows the air rushing to your engine. Locate that resonator in your fender. It is usually held on by a few clips or screws. Remove it completely and cap any open holes. That is it. On EcoBoost trucks, you will immediately hear the turbo spool and throttle response sharpens right away. One customer with a 2019 F-150 EcoBoost was about to spend $650 on an aftermarket cold air intake when I showed him this free trick first. He kept his money. You are not adding anything. You are just removing the junk Ford put there to keep the neighbors happy. Trick number 17, engine cover removal. Pop your hood and look at that big plastic cover sitting on top of everything. On EcoBoost trucks, it usually says EcoBoost or 3.5 liter in big letters. Looks great, but that cover is essentially an oven blanket cooking your electronics alive. Manufacturers install these covers for two reasons: vanity and noise reduction. They muffle injector noise and make the engine bay look tidy for the showroom. But engines generate massive heat that needs to escape upward. That plastic cover traps it like an oven, creating heat soak that affects everything underneath. We have measured intake temperatures dropping by 20 to 30 degrees just by pulling this cover off. It is usually held on by rubber grommets. Pull it off, store it in your garage, and let your engine breathe. One customer's 2018 F-150 kept killing ignition coils at $120 each. We removed the plastic cover and the coil failures stopped completely. The coils were not defective. They were baking every single time he drove. Free horsepower, free reliability, zero downsides. Trick number 16, the MAF sensor cleaning secret. Your mass airflow sensor is the brain of your fuel system. It measures how much air enters your engine and tells the computer exactly how much fuel to inject. When this sensor reads wrong, everything goes wrong. Microscopic dust coats the sensor wire over time and tricks it into reading low, so the computer dumps in extra fuel to compensate. The symptoms are all over the place. Rough idle, sluggish acceleration, fuel economy that drops from 18 miles per gallon to 14. Check engine lights with lean fuel codes. Most people replace the MAF sensor for $180 to $250 when it causes problems. Dealers love this because it is an easy part sale. Here's the secret they do not tell you. Do not replace it. Clean it. Buy a $7 can of MAF sensor cleaner, not brake cleaner, not carb cleaner. It must be MAF specific, or you will destroy the sensor instantly. Unplug it, spray the sensing element gently, and let it air dry for 10 minutes. One F-150 owner went from 14 miles per gallon to 18 after cleaning. Do it every oil change, and you will never need that $250 replacement. Trick number 15, the carbon purge. Pop the hood of any Ford with over 50,000 miles and look at the throttle body. You will almost certainly find a black sticky coating. That is carbon buildup from oil vapor and fuel residues, and it is slowly strangling your engine. One dealer quoted a customer $347 for a throttle body cleaning last month. The actual fix costs $8.15 of your time. Buy a can of CRAC throttle body cleaner from any auto parts store. With the engine off, remove the intake tube so you can access the throttle body directly. Spray the cleaner generously on the butterfly valve and surrounding surfaces. Use an old toothbrush to gently scrub the carbon off, wipe clean with a rag, then reinstall everything. A customer's F-150 went from stalling at every stoplight to running smooth as silk in 15 minutes. No dealer trip, no $347 bill. Independent tests show throttle body carbon can reduce airflow by up to 23%, costing you power and fuel economy you do not even realize you were losing. Clean it once a year. You will feel the difference every single time you press the gas pedal. Trick number 14, the water vapor decarbonization. This one sounds like an old mechanic's fairy tale. Pour water into a running engine and somehow make it better. But the water vapor trick has been quietly circulating among old school tuners for decades. And when done correctly, it can make an aging Ford engine run like it got a second life. Here's the warning first. A shop got fined $47,000 and shut down for doing this wrong. One hydrolock, one bent connecting rod, one federal investigation, and they were finished. Here is how to do it correctly. With the engine fully warmed up and idling steadily, a fine mist of water is introduced into the intake. It instantly flashes the steam inside the combustion chambers, blasting away carbon deposits from piston crowns, intake valves, and combustion surfaces, sending them out the exhaust as smoky plumes. Now, I used this on a 200,000-mile F-150 last month. The owner said it drives like it did at 100,000 miles, but the key is control. A fine mist, not a stream. This is not a trick for the careless. Trick number 13, the Italian tune-up. If the water vapor trick sounds too risky, there is a simpler way to burn off carbon deposits that mechanics have been using for over 70 years. They call it the Italian tune-up. Data shows that 64% of all vehicles are driven primarily for short trips under 10 miles, never reaching optimal operating temperature. This creates carbon buildup that slowly strangles engine performance. Ford never tells you how to fix it because they would rather sell you a $400 to $600 carbon cleaning service. A customer had a 2015 F-155.0 Coyote with 73,000 miles that felt completely gutless. No check engine light, no obvious problems. She drove 5 miles to work and 5 miles home every day for 8 years. Her engine never got hot enough to burn off deposits. Here's the solution. Once every 2 weeks, drive your Ford on the highway at 3,500 to 4,000 RPM for 15 continuous minutes. Not flooring it, just sustained high RPM cruising. That F-150 owner did 2 Italian tune-ups over a month. Black smoke poured from her exhaust the first time as years of carbon burned away. By the second run, her 5.0 pulled like it did when it was new. Trick number 12, the PCV catch can hack. If you drive a Ford with a direct injection engine, especially an EcoBoost, your engine is slowly choking itself. Direct injection is great for efficiency, but it has one fatal flaw. In older port injection engines, fuel washed over the intake valves, keeping them clean. In direct injection engines, fuel sprays straight into the combustion chamber, and the valves stay completely dry. Meanwhile, the PCV system recycles oily blow-by gas back into your intake. That oil bakes onto the hot dry valves, creating hard carbon sludge. I once pulled the manifold off a 3.5 EcoBoost F-150 with 50,000 miles. It looked like the lungs of a chain smoker coated in thick black tar. Cleaning those valves is a $500 to $1,200 walnut blasting service. A catch can prevents the problem entirely for $80 to $150, but here is a backyard version that costs $3. Install a small inline fuel filter in the PCV hose between the valve cover and the intake. It traps the oil mist before it reaches your valves. Every oil change, you will see nasty sludge collected in that little filter. That is sludge that would have been baking onto your engine. Every EcoBoost owner who does this is horrified by how much oil they catch. Trick number 11, the drop-in filter upgrade. People love spending $300 to $400 on cold air intakes that look cool, but actually just suck hot air from the engine bay. Here is the secret the aftermarket industry does not want you knowing. Your factory Ford airbox is already designed quite well. It is sealed and pulls cold, fresh air from outside the fender. The restriction is not the box. It is the cheap paper filter inside. Swap that paper brick for a high-flow cotton gauze filter like a K&N or AEM. These use an oiled matrix that flows about 50% more air while still trapping dirt. You keep the cold air source, lose the restriction, and keep $350 in your pocket. We have seen dyno runs on Mustang GTs, where a $50 drop-in filter outperformed a $400 aftermarket cone intake that was simply sucking hot engine bay air. That drop-in filter also lasts up to 50,000 miles between cleanings. Trick number 10, the transmission drain and fill. Ask a Ford dealership if you should service your transmission fluid and they will almost always say no. They will tell you it is sealed for life. Here's the truth. Sealed for life means sealed until the warranty expires. I have personally overseen the replacement of transmission after transmission that died right after warranty. All of them still had that pink lifetime fluid inside, turned black and burnt. After warranty expires, sludge and varnish choke the fluid passages and solenoids, making shifts lazy or jerky. On the 10R8010 speed, this is especially dangerous because of those aluminum valve body components. Do a partial drain and refill every 30 to 40,000 miles instead of waiting for Ford's 150,000 mile interval. Each time you only replace about 40% of the fluid, but over 3 changes you have replaced nearly all of it gradually. A customer brought me a slipping 10-speed F-150 at 120,000 miles because the dealer wanted $4,500 for a transmission replacement. Instead of replacing it, we did 3 partial drain and fills over 6 weeks. By the 3rd service, shifts were crisp and the truck felt new. Total cost was $420 instead of $4,500. Trick number 9, the spark plug gap secret. Nobody tells you this, but every spark plug comes from the factory pre-gapped, which really just means close enough for their purposes, not yours. In 20 years of working on engines, I have never seen a properly optimized plug straight from the box. Even a few thousandths of an inch off can mean the difference between perfect combustion and wasted fuel. Here is the mechanic's secret. Set the gap slightly tighter than Ford's spec, about 0.00, 2 inches less than recommended. This small change strengthens the spark under load, improving the throttle response and idle stability. On a customer's F-150 with the 5.0 Coyote that idled rough, we tightened the plug gaps by 0.002 inches. Idle smoothed instantly, acceleration sharpened, and fuel economy improved by a full mile per gallon. That is a $200 dealer tune-up result for the cost of a $4 spark plug gap tool. Ford does not endorse this because it technically affects emissions testing parameters. A slightly tighter gap can alter emissions readings, hence the illegal label. But it is completely harmless for everyday drivers who want sharper throttle response and better combustion. Trick number 8, the O2 sensor refresh. A dealer wanted $280 to replace a customer's oxygen sensor last week. The actual problem costs nothing to fix. Your O2 sensors monitor exhaust gases and tell the ECU how to adjust the fuel mixture. Over time, carbon buildup coats the sensor tips, making your engine run rich, wasting gas, fouling plugs, and triggering that check engine light. Here is the underground trick. Instead of replacing, refresh. Pull the sensors out, soak the tips overnight in gasoline or a sensor-safe cleaner, and reinstall the next day. The refresh costs nothing and restores sensor accuracy to near new levels. Improved mileage, reduced hesitation, and often that check engine light clears itself within a few drive cycles. Every shop does this secretly before recommending a replacement, then bills you for the new sensor anyway. Trick number 7. Fuel injector direct cleaning. Fuel injectors are precision tools, microscopic nozzles firing thousands of times per minute. Over time, varnish coats their tips, changing the spray pattern from a fine mist to an uneven dribble. You will not feel it immediately, but your engine absolutely does. Uneven idle, slower acceleration, fuel economy dropping 5 or 6 miles per gallon over a year. One dealer quoted a customer $940 for injector replacement. Here is the trick that saved her $900. Disconnect the fuel pump fuse so the engine runs only on what is left in the fuel rail. Pour a bottle of concentrated Techron directly into the fuel rail inlet, then start the engine and let it run on pure cleaning solution until it dies. Reconnect the fuse and start normally. It will smoke and run rough for 30 seconds, then smooth out completely. Her fuel economy climbed from 21 to 26 miles per gallon within a week. Trick number 6. The battery disconnect brain reset. This is the nuclear option for electrical gremlins, and it is embarrassingly simple. Your Ford's ECU, TCM, and every other computer module stores adaptive data over time. Fuel trims, idle speed, shift points, throttle position. When this data gets corrupted, you get phantom check engine lights, rough idle, and transmission problems. Here is how to do a complete system reboot. Disconnect the negative battery terminal with a 10mm wrench. Then press the brake pedal hard 10 to 15 times, hit the horn, turn on the headlights, and open and close the doors. You are draining every capacitor to guarantee a complete reset. Leave it disconnected for 30 minutes minimum. An hour is better for stubborn 10R80 transmission issues. Reconnect, start the truck without touching any accessories, then immediately go for a varied drive covering city stops, highway pulls, and idle time. Let every module relearn from scratch. Dealers charge $150 for this. You just did it free in your driveway. Trick number 5, the Big 3 grounding upgrade. Electrical resistance is the silent killer of throttle response and spark quality. Your alternator pumps out 14.4 volts, but thanks to Ford using the thinnest gauge wire possible to save copper costs. Your spark plugs and injectors might only be seeing 13 volts by the time electricity travels through corroded, undersized ground straps. The Big 3 upgrade fixes this permanently. You add thick, heavy gauge cables to 3 critical points: battery negative to chassis, chassis to engine block, and battery positive to alternator. Total cost is about $40 and an hour of work. We did this on an F-150 with dimming lights and rough idle. Bolted on the new cables, and the idle smoothed to a hum instantly. Throttle felt crisper, starts felt stronger, because the ignition coils finally had a clean path to ground. A hotter spark means more complete combustion. A dealer wanted $350 for diagnostics. The $40 cable upgrade fixed it permanently. Trick number 4, the coolant wetter thermal efficiency trick. Your temperature gauge is a liar. It might read normal, but inside the cylinder head, there are invisible hot spots where metal is superheated, especially on turbocharged EcoBoost engines running hard under load. Here's the problem. Under extreme heat, water forms tiny vapor bubbles against the engine walls. Those bubbles act as insulators, preventing coolant from actually touching the metal and pulling heat away. Products like Water Wetter or Purple Ice are surfactants that pop those bubbles and allow full metal contact. We are talking about dropping cylinder head temperatures by up to 20 degrees. A cooler head means the computer stops pulling ignition timing to prevent knock, allowing your engine to run at absolute peak efficiency. Chemical horsepower in a bottle for $8 to $12. A warped cylinder head costs $2,000 to $4,000 to fix. One 2016 F-150. EcoBoost kept running hot in traffic. We added Water Wetter and temps dropped 15 degrees immediately. No dealer involved. Trick number 3. The ForScan hidden settings unlock. Your Ford has an entire hidden layer of settings buried so deep that most owners will never find them without specific instructions. Using a tool called ForScan, an inexpensive laptop interface that connects to your OBD2 port, you can unlock and customize your Ford at the computer module level for about $50 in hardware. Here is what Ford hid from you. Enable global window roll down from your key fob on F-150s, where Ford disabled it from the factory. Activate auto fold mirrors every time you lock. Disable that double honk confirmation while keeping the panic alarm fully functional. Change remote start durations, customize interior lighting behavior, and enable automatic door unlock when you shift into park. These are not cosmetic changes. These affect your truck every single day. Ford buried them on purpose. ForScan gives them back. Trick number 2, the remote window vent hack. It is summer. Your truck has been baking in a parking lot for 4 hours. The interior is roughly the temperature of the surface of the sun. You could open the door and let the heat blast you in the face, or you can vent the entire cabin before you even reach the vehicle. On Ford Fusions, Edges, Escapes, Explorers, and Mustangs, press and hold the unlock button on your key fob for at least 3 seconds and the front windows roll down automatically. On some models, the sunroof vents too. Press and hold the lock button and the windows roll back up. On F-150s, this feature is not enabled from the factory on most trims, but it can be unlocked through ForScan in about 10 minutes. Once enabled, combine it with remote start. Kick the AC on first through the Ford Pass app, then drop the windows to push all that superheated air out. By the time you reach your truck, it is already cooling down. It is a feature Ford built into the hardware and then quietly switched off before it left the factory. Trick number 1, the ECU tune. The nuclear option. This is it, the ultimate forbidden trick. The one modification Ford will voice your warranty over because it works too well. A customer with a 2019 F-153.5 EcoBoost flashed a Stage 1 tune onto the ECU. No mechanical parts changed, just software. The truck gained 60 horsepower and 80 pound-feet of torque overnight. Here is the dirty secret Ford does not want you knowing. Ford deliberately detunes their engines to run on poor quality gas, survive neglect, and create a performance gap between base models and the Raptor. Your engine has power locked away that Ford does not want you accessing for free. Dealer performance packages cost $3,000 to $5,000 for maybe 15 to 20 horsepower. A Stage 1 tune costs $400 to $800 for 50 to 80 horsepower. The math is not even close. On turbocharged EcoBoosts, 50 to 80 horsepower gains are common. On naturally aspirated 5.0 Coyotes, expect 20 to 30, but tune responsibly. Full synthetic oil every 5,000 miles, and premium 91 octane fuel only, no exceptions. I have watched stock EcoBoost F-150s embarrass trucks that cost twice as much. You just learned 19 tricks that cost under $500 total, but can prevent over $15,000 in dealership repairs, while unlocking performance Ford intentionally buried. How many of these did you already know about? Drop a comment below and tell me which one surprised you the most. If this video just saved you from an expensive repair bill or showed you how to unlock the Ford your dealership did not want you to have, smash that subscribe button and share this with every Ford owner you know. Their trucks will thank you.